As a photographer, you sometimes have to get out of the house to find subjects that really interest you. I love nothing more than a good road trip, but whether you're flying, boating, driving, diving, or taking a lengthy walkabout, the point is that often we need to go and explore places we're unfamiliar with to find an image that really takes our breath away. Sometimes you have to go to a place where all the action is, like Ryrie, Idaho, USA. It was 2017, and we were anticipating a total solar eclipse here in America. The moon's umbral shadow would take a little over 90 minutes to move from Oregon to South Carolina. The path of totality would only be about 3 hours north of where I live, so I wasn't about to miss it. An eclipse is one of nature's rarest and most remarkable events, so I wanted to be prepared. Millions of people all across the United States would be converging on the moon's path, and I wanted to find a place away from the crowds, so scouting a good location was the first step. We had a distant family relation who would let us camp in their backyard on the night before the eclipse. There we would get the requisite snapshots of friends and family enjoying the event, but I wanted an image that would speak of the heavens and the earth, so eventually I found a lone bridge overlooking the Snake River far off the beaten path. I thought that would be perfect. I used an app on my phone to determine the exact location in the sky where the eclipse would occur, took some test shots, and then waited for the day to arrive. The day of the eclipse was perfectly clear. I was alone on that bridge, and I watched with anticipation as the moon slowly covered the sun. The total eclipse would only last about 2 minutes, so I would have to work fast. Suddenly, the earth darkened, the temperature dropped, and it seemed that all the birds went silent. On the horizon, everywhere I looked, it was light, like a sunrise. I took my images, and for a few short seconds longer, I enjoyed one of the most beautiful cosmic events I'd ever witnessed in my life. Then a moment later, it was gone. The Utah State Capitol building overlooks Salt Lake City and the valleys beyond. Built in the early 1900s, this Corinthian-style structure made of sparkling granite is not only the seat of government for the Beehive State, but it's a wonderful destination for locals and visitors from around the world. I've shot many images of this Capitol over the years. It's perfectly proportioned, with an air of great strength, and when the light is right, it has a serene and stately appearance. One of my favorite times to photograph this building is in April. The property is ringed by over 400 Yoshino cherry trees, and every year they blossom into a vivid pink and white display that lets us know spring has arrived. It's a perfect time to get the camera out. Evenings can get pretty crowded, so I like to go in the morning just as the sunrise is peeking over the Wasatch Mountains. Backlighting the trees, the sun makes the blossoms absolutely glow, and if you find the right location, they make a terrific frame for some architectural photography. I love the contrast of the strong granite structure and the delicate blossoms surrounding it. Both pink and green are great complementary colors to gray, so I was excited to see how these colors would all work together to create a nice, airy composition. I decided to shoot film, one roll of Ektachrome, Provia 100, and several rolls of Portra 160, as I felt like this formula would really help draw out the colors in the blossoms. With a 50mm lens, I can easily frame up the entire building along with some trees to border it. I also use a 120mm lens to get some close-up shots of the flowers. A polarizer helps to reduce the reflections bouncing off the Capitol dome in the background. It also allows me to open up the aperture by about 2 stops as the day is getting brighter. This will lend a nice bokeh to the image. Shooting at f8 and using a DOF calculator, I estimate I have about 9 inches of usable depth of field, so I should be able to get most of this branch in focus. I set my focus point for some blossoms just forward of the center of the branch. I double check the depth of field preview lever on the lens and make an image. Sometimes, waiting until your film can be developed is like waiting for Christmas. It can drive you crazy. But I feel confident about my exposures, so it's a good kind of crazy. The cherry trees line a very nice walking path, and there you can find interesting patterns in the blossoms or an empty bench warming in the sunlight. If you're lucky, you can find someone to sit in for you. My daughter Tiffany stopped by while taking her dog Anna for a walk, so I asked her to join me. We found a nice bench, perfectly framed by trees and blossoms. The sun, of course, made for a nice warm backlight. Using an 80mm lens and a 3-stop ND filter, I opened the aperture to a 2.8. At a distance, I'll have almost 4 feet of depth of field, so that will ensure my subject is in focus, but also give me the soft foreground and background I want. I also decided to use a fill flash. I was framing wide, so I wouldn't be able to get a bounce in close enough to Tiffany. A strobe just off frame should do the trick. Portra 160 has a lot of latitude, so I felt confident that with some fill light, her face wouldn't be silhouetted too much. We had a great time walking around the cherry trees. It was warm and fragrant, and we could feel that the long winter was over. The colorful blossoms only last for a week or so, then the leaves will turn green like everything else, until the next winter arrives. And that's really the way the world works, isn't it? Most things in life are fleeting. I have photographs of my daughter from the day she was born to today. She's an adult now, and her childhood is come and gone. But what a blessing it is to be able to look back and recall fond memories of her through the miracle of a photograph. Whether it's a childhood, a cherry tree blossom, or an eclipse, these things come and they go. Even a pandemic will run its course and fade with time. It's just a fact that most things in life are temporary. But with a camera, we can capture an image that can tell a story or create a feeling for years to come. It's a wonderful way to share our thoughts and perspective, or even our memories of the important things that bring so much value to our lives. It's the greatest joy for me as a photographer to know that I've caught a precious moment in time, that it's mine to view, to remember, and to recall the same feelings I had when I was there. And it's good to know I can even share them with you.